Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Business 411. Thank you all for joining me again for another episode. I'm your host, Elizabeth, and today our guest will be Miss Peta-Gay Facey. She is the CEO of Mallowri Naturals in Jamaica, and Mallowri Naturals is a hair and skincare products line made with all natural ingredients. So the product line is infused with the best ingredients from all natural sources, and they pride themselves on making what they call amazing products. So I'm super excited to speak with her today about her journey to starting and growing Mallowri Naturals and learn a little bit more about who she is. So without further ado, let's get into the conversation. Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Glad to have you on and to be able to have this discussion. How's your week been going so far?
Well, this week has been a little challenging, but otherwise I think it's been a good week. How has your week been so far?
About the same. I'm actually finishing out my last week of school. I'm about to graduate, so
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
thank you so much. So let's get into it. So right in from the jump, you're the CEO of Mallowri Naturals, and I want to get into your story and how you came about being the CEO and how you started your business. But I want you to introduce yourself first and just tell me a little bit about who you are. And yeah, so everyone can know a little bit more about you.
Okay, sure. All right. So, hi everyone. Hello to all the listeners. So, my name is Peta-Gay Facey. I am an attorney. So, I was actually called to the Jamaican bar in 2018. So, I have a little experience in commercial law and international law. I love family and I love friends. Also, I'm a Christian. So that really sorts of dominates my worldview on things and my actions, my behavior, my conduct. So I've been pretty passionate about natural hair since I can remember myself. And in about 2011 thereabouts, I got seriously interested in natural hair. At the time, I was a student at Immaculate. And, there was this new wave of this natural hair movement and this natural hair journey. So although I have always been natural, I decided to be more conscious and deliberate about what I would use on my hair, what I would use on my skin. And so I just started to, make some products, gather the raw ingredients and so on, and would just kind of have little products that I would give to family and friends. And so that's really just the background and what really, was impetus for starting Mallowri Naturals.
Okay, yay! And I'm so glad to hear that you're a fellow ICHS alum, as am I.
Yes.
So
Okay,
love that for
wonderful.
us. So I'm interested now to get into a little bit more about natural hair. So you said you've been a natural hair enthusiast now for years, as long as you know yourself. You said
Right.
so. Knowing that, when did you really start to dive into maybe I don't know, maybe DIY your own products? Was that where it started, or were you just really just buying up other person's products and trying out different things?
Right. So I think it primarily started with me, you would get a couple products, you'd buy some products that was on the market, but things were just not working for me at all.
Mm.
And so I found a store that sold natural hair products and that sold natural hair, like for example, ingredients,
Yeah, ingredients.
right? And then I decided to just make my own concoction. And as I said, I started DIYing in probably about 2012, but
Okay.
I didn't start Mallowri until way after in about 2017, 2018, thereabouts.
Okay. So when you started Malor, what was the first product that you really started experimenting with creating?
Okay, all right. So I started off with two anhydrous products, and anhydrous products mean that they don't have any water in there. So two products that I started off with was the Seckle and Seal, which is a hair sealant. So it's made with natural oils and butters, and then also Forever Mickle in a Bottle, which is a special blend of carrier oils and essential oils that are good for the scalp and which helps to promote hair growth.
Okay, so you said Seckle and Seal.
Right. That's the Seckle and Seal, which is the sealant. and the ever mickle in a buckle. So if you notice, the products have Jamaican punny names.
Yeah, I was just about to say, where did you come up with those names? Is that something that you always had in the back of your mind, or what was your thought process there?
Yeah, definitely. So when I conjured up the concept of Mallowri, I'm apart from being a natural hair enthusiast, I'm also somebody that really loves Jamaican culture. So I really wanted my brand to be sort of like quintessentially Jamaican. So I really wanted my products to really represent Jamaica's culture well.
Right, right. So in having those names, is that the same mindset you had going into the name Mallowri Naturals? Where did the name Mallowri Naturals come from?
Yeah, definitely. So actually I came up with the name Mallowri Naturals from about 2012. So I remember my mind wanders to when I was even at Immaculate and I came up with a name and I would have the logo on my computer and still trying to muster up the strength and the courage to actually start. But Mallowri is actually an amalgamation of two names. So it is both Mallow, which is a family of plants, and my middle name Mallowri. So many well-known Jamaican plants such as sorrel, okra, hibiscus, and cocoa are actually from the mallow family. So that's how I came up with the name, and it's sort of still representing the whole strong, Jamaican culture.
Right, right, right. Ah, that's so cool. And I didn't really know that about mallow plant. So that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So okay, so you have these first set of products. How do you go
Right.
about now getting them out to people, letting them, raising awareness, accessibility? What was your strategy?
Okay, all right. So started off primarily with just, gifting it to family and friends and selling it to family and friends. And then I decided to actually like attend quite a bit of like local shows for like small crafters. Then of course, I started my Instagram page and started selling from the page and really just trying to get the name out there, trying to, raise an awareness about the brand. And then I occasionally would sell the products in Earth Elements as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that has really been the sort of strategy in terms of just primarily really attending a lot of the hair shows and small crafter shows to really get the name out there.
Right. And you mentioned Earth Elements. I mean, how did you build that relationship with Earth Elements to be able to get your products into their store?
Ironically, I sort of like developed my relationship with Earth Elements from probably about 2011 when I just started to love natural hair.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I would tell everybody at Immaculate that, there's this great store that sells natural products and you guys need to get there. So much so that I developed a relationship with Lisa and then also Miss Williams, that is I think the CEO of the place. So when I actually decided, Lisa primarily was one of the persons that was pushing me to start Mallowri because she knows that I always wanted to start this brand, and she was one of the primary persons. So I developed a relationship with them from long before Mallowri actually started.
Okay, so you were almost kind of like an ambassador for them before,
Right.
and then it kind of blossomed into something else. Okay, that's nice. And then you said you were going to the haircraft shows and just trying to
Right.
just get the product out there more. So how long after you started pushing these products out and just getting them out there, did you really start to see people responding to it? If you can remember that time span.
I think one thing that really caused or like increased the brand awareness was when I decided to be a little bit more deliberate about my brand strategy on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So even in relation to like how I took the products, how I took product shots, how I decided to really sort of like communicate the brand to persons. I think that was really when I got a lot of responses. And I think one thing that really pushed it out as well was when I got an interview, both an interview from the Jamaica Gleaner and I think on JIS that really helped to push out the brand as well.
Right. So at this point, you're doing everything on your own. Do you have somebody helping you, or are you just trying to manage everything by yourself?
Yes, so at the moment, so actually, yes, I did everything I do everything on my own. So make the products, brand the products and everything, which sometimes pretty difficult, especially with juggling it with a 9 to 5. But I actually just recently I decided to hire a sort of like a social media marketer.
Okay.
or a digital marketer. So that has been a big step as well, because moving from trying to do everything on your own to actually taking on somebody else has really been, you know, new thing on the journey for sure.
Right. And so you say you're packaging everything on your own.
Right, labels, everything.
How long does that take you to do that? Like, how many orders are you receiving on an average day or week? That, what's that process like?
Well, I mean, I guess the orders really range, I think, based on the time of the year. So and also when I have shows. So for example, when I have to prepare for shows, so for example, there's a show that I tend to go on often, and sometimes you will have to, I don't know, sometimes you'll have to, you'll be having to make maybe like 50, 60 products in order to prepare for the show. And then sometimes like during the Christmas times it's pretty busy at that time as well, because you also offer like a Mallowri box, so that persons
Okay.
can be able to like bundle the products together and be able to give them to family and friends. So it really ranges. And sometimes I just have to kind of be honest with myself and know that, all right, this month I'll have to ease off a bit, because I'm also juggling with a 9 to 5 and other like life responsibilities. So that's also something that I have to be aware of as well. Because sometimes, I was mentioning it to a friend of mine today, that I can't really compare my entrepreneurship journey to the entrepreneur that does this as their full-time job, because I'm really going to get burnt out and I'm even be able to do this thing very well. So sometimes I really have to be aware of my limitations, and I try my best to be as productive as I can, for example, like on the weekends and so on. But because I really love law and I really actually love what I'm doing now, I still have to be very careful about how I use my time and how I spend my energy.
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting too, because so many people you hear in the entrepreneurship world that they have their full-time job and then they have their side hustle, and then they'll tell you, oh my God, I wish I could do my side hustle full-time because I don't really like my full-time job. But I
Right.
feel like you're a unique case because you actually really love your job.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
also love your side hustle. So finding that balance is important. So
Definitely.
that's an interesting take.
Yes, definitely.
So you say you do most of it on the weekends when you have the time because during the week you're busy. So where are you sourcing your products from, or your ingredients rather, from the same place, or are you getting like bulk deals? Like how does that work? Are you just going out and buying them from the returns that you're getting?
Right. So right now, what we do is that right now I usually so I have a number of vendors that I get the products from, or I get the raw material from, and the labels and the packaging. So sometimes I'll have to ship them in bulk. Ship, for example, some raw material in bulk, like, that I can't get them in Jamaica. Some
Mm-hmm.
things I'll source, for example, from like oils and bottles. I'll source from some oils and bottles from small crafters. So even like, for example, our castor oil, we sort of like communicate with other Jamaican artisans that also make high quality oils as well, because we really want to sort of support the Jamaican community.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for example, some of our labels and packaging, I get them here in Jamaica as well. But in order to try and maximize profits, I try my best to see how I can get the things in bulk. And that's one of the benefits, I think, of doing it with a 9 to 5, is that right now I am not so deliberate about trying to take a salary or so on. So all of the revenue can be pumped back into the business, in order so that it can increase brand awareness, so that the money can be pumped into, for example, developing new products and stuff like that.
Right. And I think it's interesting too, because navigating a business by yourself and maybe not having a large team, sometimes it can be difficult to really filter through all of the choices that you have in terms of vendors. So
Right.
what advice would you give to others who are in a similar line of work or going through like a similar product development process?
Well, the first thing I'd recommend is that you do your due diligence in terms of researching. So even now, so what I try my best to keep as organized as I can, because I know that I have limited time. So I'll have, for example, like an Excel spreadsheet that outlines all the prices of the raw material that I need and the different vendors. And you also have to be mindful that whenever you are deciding to import something, from overseas, you have to take into consideration the shipping fees, how much it takes to clear it, how much it takes, for example, for you to go and pick it up. All of those things really contribute to the actual cost. So it might seem less expensive, immediately, but you have to take into consideration all those things in determining what's the true cost of the product. So as I say, just have to do your research in terms of being willing to put in the work to try and find out how reasonably you can get the raw materials for. So right now, I think for the raw material, we'll probably get it from maybe like 4 to 5 persons. And there are persons that I also think of in the event that this vendor doesn't have it. I know that I have a backup vendor that will be able to provide it. They might be a little bit more expensive, but to ensure that there's a consistent supply of raw material, that you also have a backup vendor as well. Because I think that's very important, especially in COVID. That was something that was challenging as well in terms of trying to get raw material and packaging both locally and internationally. So, my recommendation, as I said, is really just to do your research and also try and see if you can reach out to persons who are in your field. Some persons are a little more helpful than others, but that's one thing that I'd recommend. One thing that also assisted me was me deciding to go to JBDC, Jamaica Business Development Corporation, and JBDC assigns you to a business development officer. And so the business development officer that I was assigned to, she really provided some assistance in terms of even just understanding the regulatory framework for running a business like this and all the sort of considerations, things that I need to consider that you might not necessarily consider for somebody who's a new-time entrepreneur.
Right. So pivoting off of that, where you said things that you didn't normally or you didn't expect to come up for you, what's something that's been surprising for you throughout this process that you didn't necessarily expect?
Okay, I think probably one thing that surprised me was the regulatory requirements for running a business like this. So, for example, making sure that your labels are Bureau of Standards tested. That's one thing. And also, I remember trying to ship something in, a particular ingredient, and then finding out that you'd have to get a license from Ministry of Health in order to import it. So that was one thing that I had to, realize or find out. So I think that's probably maybe 2 other things that I wasn't aware of. And also some of the things probably just like making sure that your, accounting is in order, those kind of stuff as well. And yeah.
Right. So you were doing all of that accounting stuff yourself as well. So just all the books and everything. So at any point, did any of it become overwhelming for you?
I mean, there are periodic times, when it becomes overwhelming, we just kind of have to just step back and then breathe. I recently completed this course, this entrepreneurship course called Aspiring Women Entrepreneurs. That really opened up my eyes to all the things that are needed in order to run a well-oiled business. And so they also provided quite a bit of material that assisted in terms of even just the things that are needed in order to ensure that, the accounting is up to scratch. And as I said, it is challenging, but what I try and do is that whenever I do have, large blocks of time, I just try my best to commit to doing these things for the business and just try and do my best. That's all that I can do, just do my best.
Right, exactly. And I think you've done a good job as well. I know a few people who use your products and have good things to say. So that's
Thank
good.
Thank you so much. So glad to hear that.
Yeah. So I'm curious to know, has your law degree ever come in super handy with managing Mallowri in a way that you didn't expect?
Definitely. I think, well, first of all, sometimes, art. So probably in terms of like having to go through agreements with vendors or with a new employee, for example, that has been helpful in terms of knowing how to read and interpret contracts. And also even in relation to intellectual property considerations, because I do that a little bit at work as well. So that has been helpful. And also I think probably just in terms of maybe like perspective wise, sometimes people will give you a listening ear when they hear that you have a law degree or that you're an attorney. So I think
it gives you a little bit of an edge,
Right, just a bit.
Of course. So moving forward now, what's your vision for Mallowri? What do you want it to grow into, considering that, you're okay with your 9 to 5 and you're not necessarily looking to replace it? What then would be the long-term goal for Mallowri?
Well, I mean, I don't exactly know what the future holds, but it's my hope that Mallowri will really be a household name in relation to providing high quality natural hair and skincare products. And it's my hope that it will move beyond Jamaica, and that Mallowri will really provide an opportunity for persons to get a little slice of Jamaican culture all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know what, even though I love my 9 to 5, you never know what will happen,
Right.
But as it stands, that's my vision for Mallowri. One thing that I'm very passionate about is children in daycare. So it's actually my hope that Mallowri will be able to provide some assistance to children in daycare, and and really just providing opportunities for persons in the Jamaican community. So that's really my vision for Mallowri for sure.
Right. And when you say providing opportunities, you mean like employment opportunities?
Both employment opportunities and probably like providing scholarships and stuff like
Gotcha.
that.
Gotcha. And I think you've already kind of started in that direction. I mean, you said you hired recently somebody to manage your social media. So
Right.
through that experience, what have you learned about being a manager or being a leader? I know it's only one employee, but I mean, it's still people management.
Right.
So what can you share about that? Anything that you've learned, any lessons that you've learned?
So what I've learned is that sometimes it's difficult when you are used to doing everything and having to sort of like let go the reins. So you really want your employee to feel as though they have the sort of space to be able to, like, especially for somebody who's going to do marketing where they actually have to create and explore, really giving them the space and the discretion to be able to make choices for the benefits of the business. And so one thing that I've had to learn, it's been a little difficult in terms of having to let go the reins. And one thing that I really want, not just for this employee, but for employees going forward, is that I would really want that employees that work at Mallowri, even if they stay here, whether it be 1 year to 10 years, that they really can say that they have grown as a person or as a professional by virtue of working with Mallowri. So, striking the right balance in terms of making sure that you're providing good oversight, but making sure that you're also like exercising empathy and really providing, as I said, clear instructions so that persons can really be able to do the best that they can and be able to carry out their own responsibilities well.
Allowing them to have freedom of expression, or free
Right.
creativity with managing the social media and not micromanaging. So I'm just gonna pivot a little bit away from Mallowri Naturals, because you also do something else. You have a blog that is called andallthesethings.com, where you share insights on stewardship and approaching business from a Christian perspective, which you said is very pivotal to the core of who you are. So can you share a little bit more about that?
Okay, sure. So I started on all these things in, I think, May of this year. And, it's been something that I really enjoy so far. So at the core of who I am, I think I love sharing. I love providing insight as much as I can. So the concept of stewardship really came to me in about 2018. There was just a sort of like level of awareness that I believe like God brought to my attention, to the fact that like He has entrusted to us like everything, ranging from our talents, ranging from our experiences, just everything He has given us, all these things, and He's expecting that we use them in such a way in order to bring Him glory. And so the weight of that, understanding, I said, Lord, I really want to allow persons to really get this sort of insight that I have as well, because sometimes we forget that, yes, we're doing stuff, and as Christians, we're supposed to be doing things as best as I can. But it's almost like there's this expectation, that we're supposed to be doing it as best as we can in order to bring Him glory. So that's really what the blog is about. So I talk about also like biblical money management, so money management from a Christian perspective, because sometimes as Christians we forget that, God is also concerned about how we use and manage the money that he has entrusted to us. So that's a little bit of the things that I speak about on the blog, as well as just general issues on stewardship.
It's interesting that you're talking about finances too from a Christian perspective, because I think
Right.
so many people in that realm think, oh, we shouldn't worry about riches or wealth or money, and we should just not spend time to manage that. But I think it's important because as much as we're here on earth, God wants us to enjoy his creations. So I think it's good that you're talking about that.
Right.
So diving deeper a little bit more, you said you talked about stewardship and what that means and how God has given us gifts and talents that we can use here on this earth, and he wants us to be able to manage them well for his glory. So
Right.
I wanted to know, you said you started thinking about it more in 2018. So between
Right.
2018 and starting the blog this year, what processes have you gone through to really hone in on stewardship? How has that been reflected in your own life?
Right, definitely. So I think, for example, I'm just being a little bit more deliberate about even like my personal Bible study. So understanding that even my decision to like growing my knowledge and understanding of the Lord, that even that I have to steward well. And I've also taken like a personal responsibility, even in relation to my friends and so on, in encouraging them to really manage their money well. So I've also tried my best to, for example, like attend quite a bit of seminars on investing and money management, and really made a deliberate effort to make sure that I manage my money well. And also that, I'm really just more focused on, really giving God glory with all the things that he has given to me, and making sure that I have an accurate, biblical perspective on all things.
Right. And why do you call the blog and all these things?
Right. So you notice I kind of have a little thing for punny names.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So and all these things are very Jamaican something. People always say, yeah man, and all these things.
Yeah.
And and that I love Jamaican Jamaicanness and Jamaican culture very much. But also I think at the heart of stewardship is that well-known Matthew 6 verse 33 scripture, which says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and then all these things will be added unto you. So it's basically like God wants to like entrust us with all of these things that sometimes we are so conscious about, ranging from money to business, all of those things. But for him to entrust us with these things, for him to entrust us with an increase in these things, he really wants us to be very concerned about his kingdom. He really wants us to be very concerned about giving him glory, so that he can sort of like trust us with more things, right? Because that's really just the concept of stewardship as well. It's almost like ensuring that you are trustworthy, that God can give you these things because you know that you will use them well.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think what's amazing about that verse that you mentioned too is that a lot of people forget that they can go to God, that he's the source of everything. So he would have to be first before we can receive anything else. And he wants to give us what we want and what we desire and what we need in life to flourish. And that scripture is just a testament of that. So I love what you're doing with your blog. It's very inspiring. And I love that you're coming at it from a Christian perspective, because it's such a unique perspective, entrepreneurship, but being a Christian while you're an entrepreneur is a whole other side of things that people don't realize. So definitely, I love that you're bringing a highlight to that. So far on your blog, what types of people do you try to bring on? I know you said Christian entrepreneurs, but are there persons who are just financially focused, or are you broadening the scope a little bit beyond that?
Right. So at the moment, we've done 2 IGTV videos so far. So with 2 entrepreneurs who are Christians who are doing pretty well in their respective vocation. I'm even going to be engaging with somebody who is a financial advisor, but he's also a Christian. So I'm going to engaging with a lot of persons who are just doing very well in their respective vocations, and really getting an idea from them about what's the intersection like between their work and faith.
Right, understood. Okay, so just to wrap up here, I wanted to ask you, you said you listen to a lot of podcasts, you go to a lot of seminars, and I'm sure you read a lot of books as well. Is there a favorite book or a favorite podcast that you can recommend to others to listen to that would be beneficial for them if they want to be an entrepreneur or a business owner in the future?
For like investing,
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage persons to in Jamaica to watch like Kalila Reynolds. She has a great program on YouTube that you can watch. So she really explains like investing and money management and even business in a clear and concise manner that the average person can understand. There's also a group of two young men that also host a podcast called Earning Season.
Okay.
That also kind of give you understanding about the Jamaica Stock Exchange. So they're pretty good. In terms of like good Christian podcasts, one that I binge all the time is this podcast called The Call to Mastery by Jordan Reno. He's not a Jamaican, he's an American, but I'm telling you, just great insights. So he interviews or has discussions with a range of persons from persons who are former politicians to persons who are pastors, writers, and just really getting their scope or understanding on how to do their respective vocations, doing it excellently unto the glory of God, and also just them focusing or honing in on their particular field in order to do it well. And there's this other podcast that I listen to as well called Kingdom Driven Entrepreneurs. That one is pretty good. And there's also a pretty good podcast called Side Hustle Pro.
Oh, I love that one.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one,
that one
with
is pretty good.
Nicola Matthews, I think.
Right.
Okay, thank you for those recommendations. I'm also an avid podcast listener, and of course, I'm here.
Thank you.
Podcast hosting,
right.
So love that. So tell us where we can find you. Where can we find Mallowri Naturals on Instagram, their website, and all these things as well. Let us know where listeners can find you.
Okay, sure. So in relation to Mallowri Naturals, you can reach out to us on Instagram. We're Mallowri, Mallowri_naturals on Instagram. And we also have a website. The link is in the bio, so it's pretty easy to just go there. And I guess if you type in Mallowri Naturals on Google, the website will also come up. For And All These Things, that's the name. So if it's andallthesethings.com, and that is the website, you can also interact with me on Instagram. I'm intent on being PG, so it's INTENT on being PG. So you can reach out to me as well. And the link to the website is also in my bio.
I love that. I can even hear your fascination with the playing on words in your personal bio name.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Trust me. I can't run away from it. Trust me.
That is genius. Intent on being PG. I love that. So thank you so much, Peta-Gay. I really enjoyed talking to you today about Mallowri and also about your personal passion project with And All These Things. I'm super excited to see how that grows and how Mallowri continues to grow. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. And wishing all the best with your own endeavors in relation to school and profession afterwards, and even with this podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you too. Bye, everybody.
Okay, everyone. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed speaking with Peta-Gay about her journey. Please be sure to follow Mallowri Naturals on Instagram at Mallowri_naturals, and check out Peta-Gay and her page as well, Intent on Being PG, where she has her blog And All These Things. It's a great resource to just learn how to manage your finances from a great Christian perspective. And thank you guys again for tuning in, and see you in the next episode.